Hello friends, welcome to another video. In today's video, we are going to look into 24 hours rolling measures. This is not based on the date, but on the time. On the surface, this looks pretty simple, but actually there's a lot of complexity in this. To understand the problem and what the solution is going to look like, let's get to Power BI and take a look. So here in Power BI, what I have is a one single user selected. So user has a start date and time and end date and time and number of hours user worked. So an interval, one thing I want to mention here that this solution we are working on the minimum of 30 minutes interval. If you have interval more than 30 minutes, like 15 minutes interval or 1 hour, that the solution can be tweaked accordingly. But for the demo purposes, I'm going to use 30 minutes interval. So for example, this guy start on January 4th and worked for half an hour, and then again from 12 to 12:30 a.m. and then at 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. 4 hours, and so forth, so on. Now the rolling 24 hours in this particular case is on each row. This is what it's going to look like. So let's, for example, if we are at the 6th of April and 2021, so the end time is 4 a.m. It means that 24 hours is anything between one day before, which is like a 5th of April 2021, 4 a.m. till 4 a.m. of the 6th of. So basically anything from the end time going back 24 hours and number of hours worked during that time is what is rolling 24 hours. Now, for example, in this particular case, if we go back on the starting date will be 5th of April. So there is no record which is on 5th of April. It means on this particular row, the total number of rolling 24 hours is 6 hours. But if we go one row above, so now the range becomes, in this particular case, 1st April 2021 to 31st March 2021, 6 p.m. So anything within that date range is included as part of the rolling 24 hours. So all above 3 rows fall from 31st of March 2021 to 6 p.m. So in this particular case, the total number of rolling hours will be 6 plus 4, 10 plus half an hour. So 10 hour, 30 minutes. If I go user X, just to further explain it, so but if I go to this particular row, so it's going to be 9 a.m. to 30th of 9 a.m. So we have a record. In this case, this is 6 to 9, at 6 to 10 a.m. the user works. So the range becomes, in this particular case, 30th December 2021 to 9 a.m. to 31st December 2021. So there is 1 hour in this row which will come as part of the 24 hours. So the total number of hours in this case will be 3. So there's a pretty complex calculation, as you can see. Like you need to go back to find out. First you get the date, starting date range from your end time, what the date and time is, 24 hours, and then go back to the previous rows for that user to see if the user has any the working hours within that particular date range or the time range, and then count the number of hours worked from that date range, time range, to include in 24 hours. Before we look at the solution, I'm going to create a temporary table because there's a lot more DAX involved in this, and I'm going to create a temporary table just to walk through how we will break this up, and we will use various DAX functions, and then eventually we will put together the final measure. So let's take a look at the a table we're going to create. So what I'm going to do is create a new table here using DAX. I have something here in my notepad, a sample table. So let's call it the sample table. So what we're going to do is make it a little bit bigger. The DAX code is going to be a little bit longer, so I'm going to not change too big of a font here. And so Here is, let's decrease the size of the font so we can see. So what I did in this particular case is just created a table with two columns in it. One is start date and end date, and given the different start and end time. So let's return this table. So we will go through each line by line and see what it returns in our DAX code. So if we look into this sample table, once this execute, in sample table, what we have is 3 brackets. So basically, if we look into the start date and end date, 6 a.m. to 12:30, 10:20, and then 9 to 11, and then one more bracket. So the one thing what we need to do is we need to convert each row into 30 minutes interval. And so basically we will start from 6 a.m. in the first row. So there will be a record for 6 a.m., then 6:30, then 7, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, and until we reach the end date time. So that's the first thing what we need to do. We need a range and convert it into rows. So how are we going to do that? So let's start writing our continue on our table here. So first I'm going to do is let's create another table called as table output, and in this what we're going to do is we're going to take advantage of generate function. If you don't know what the generate function is, generate functions allows you to iterate over each row in the table and multiply, basically cross join with the second table. So what we're going to do is we're going to iterate over our raw table and then perform some calculation on that. I already have a video on generate all, and generate series functions. Do check out that video. I will post the link of that video in the description of this video. So the first part we're going to do is we're going to, okay, what table we want to cross join over. So we're going to go table, and now we have the table, that is our table stored in a variable. So what we want to do here is iterate over each row of this table and perform our calculation. So what we're going to do is let's store first, get our everything in a variable so that we can see what's happening. So we're going to get in the start date. So this will be end date. Again, keep in mind this part of the code after comma will run for each row in the table, right? So right now we are looking at the first bracket. So so it will go for first bracket, second row, third row, and so forth, so on. So we're getting the start and end date, and what we're going to do is we're going to find out the total number of minutes we have in this. So that's pretty easy to do. We can go date difference, and that will be our start date, end date, and then minute. Now we got, let's say if there is in the second row there is 9 to 11, so this will return us 2 hours. Basically what we will get is we will get 240 minutes. That's what we're going to get. This date difference will return, and what we need is, because we want the 30 minutes interval, what we're going to do is we're going to divide it by 30 minutes, because that's the unit we are using. So every 9 a.m., 9:30, 10, that's why we're dividing by 30 minutes. So now what we will have is, if there is a 240 minutes between start date and end date, so this will return us a value 8, because that's the 8 number of intervals we need. And now that we got the number of rows we need for each for this, again this code is going to iterate for the each row. Now there might be chances that there is a not full 30 minutes. Let's say start time is 9 a.m. and the end time is 10:45 a.m. So we have a 9, 9:30, 10, and then 10:30, right? So but again, it's not a full 30 minutes. So what we need to do is we need to round off, first of all find out full 30 minutes complete, and then the remaining ones. So what I'm going to do is round minutes. Whatever total minutes is, what we're going to use the function round down, and we're going to round those down to full 30 minutes interval. Let's say if it is there's a 45 minutes, and this one will give us 45 minutes divided by 30, which will be 1 point some number, and now what we are rounding it down to only 1. So 45 minutes will, yeah, otherwise this is going to be 1 point fractional in there, but what we're changing it to be to the full numbers. And now if we're going to find out if there is any remaining minutes left, right? So it's a 45 minutes, it means we got the 30 minutes one, the first block. Now there is another one which is a small portion, so we need to find out if there is any in remaining minutes we have. So what we can do here is, if round minutes is less than total minutes, so let's say that the round minutes is going to be 1, and this is going to be, let's say if the difference is 45 minutes, the round minutes is going to be 1 and the total minutes is going to be 1.15, for example. So round minutes is less than total minutes, it means there are remaining minutes in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to return total minutes in here. But if let's say if there is complete 2 hours, so there is a 30 minutes, and there's a 30 minutes block, so then this will return blank value in that case, because round minutes is going to be, let's say it's between 9 to 11. So what we have is 9 to 11 is 120 hours, 20 minutes divided by 30. So we have a 4, the value of 4. And when we say round down a 4,0, so that's still going to return 4. So what we're checking is 4 is less than total less than 4, which is not, and then it is going to return the blank value. So that's how it's going to work. Previously I think I mentioned 9 to 11 240 minutes. Of course that was wrong, it's 120 minutes. So now what we need to do is, now we know what is number of intervals we need. So what we can do is we can create a table here. And how we're going to create a table, this is where the generate series will come in the picture. So we're going to go generate series. We're going to start from the 0, because what we need is we're going to, let's say if it's 6 to 9 a.m., let's say 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., we're going to start 6, 6:30, 7, 7:30, 8, 8:30, and so forth, so on. So that's why we're going to start from 0, and then total round minutes, the full intervals we have, and we're going to increment it by 1. So what this is going to give is, this is going to give us a table. And now we got a table. What we need is, we need another if there are any remaining minutes, because there's a portion and we need to add that in here as well. So I'm storing everything in a variable so that it's easy to understand. So what we need, we can now union our minutes table, and then our remaining minutes, whatever we have, as append that as another row. So what this will give us, let's say if there's a 2 hours, it will give us 1, 2, actually starting from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if these are full complete minutes, 30 minutes interval, then the remaining minutes will be blank, but still the row will be get added. But if there is a fractional portion of a minute, and that will be get added to this as well. Now we got the number of rows we needed based on the time difference between start date and end date and time. And what we need to do is, we need to add another column which will be start date time plus a number of minutes. So how we're going to do that? So we're going to go, we will call it minutes output table. What that is going to look like, so add column. So first we're going to add column to our full minutes table, which we just stored in a variable, and then add a column to this minute, which is value multiplied by 30, because that's an interval we are using. So now our output is table output, and let's see what does that look like. Let's select one date range to understand it. So I'm going to start date 6 a.m. one, and how does that translate it? So if we look here, we have a start date where we had only one record with which was start date and end date, starting at 6 and ending at 10 a.m. 10:20 a.m. So what we did is now it has been converted into how many number of rows? It's converted into 10 rows. So why 10? So there's a 6, 6:30. The difference is 4 hours 20 minutes, right? So 4 hours is 200 and 4 hours divided by 30 will be 8, and then the remaining, which is the 20 minutes one, and then because we're starting from 0, and that's why it's a 10 rows. And so what we have is the value, this value is coming from the generate, so this full minutes table, which is 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and then the remaining one 8.6667, which is a 20 minutes one, and then the minutes column we added here, that is value, this value multiplied by 30. So that's like a 0 30 60, so it's basically incremental. Now the reason why we're doing it, we're going to add another column to this, which will be start date plus number of minutes, and that will give us starting from 6 a.m. and a half an hour interval, and give us the date and time. And let's take a look at the another record as well. So 12 p.m. one, because it starts from 12 and 12:30, so it has a 3 records right now, because it did not have any remaining, because there were a half an hour and the full interval of 30 minutes. So the value column is blank. As I said, there will be blank columns will get added if there are no full if there are full intervals of 30 minutes. If there is a not full 30 minutes interval, there will be a something with the remaining with the decimal numbers for the remaining minutes or fractional minutes. If we look at the third record we created, what we add is a similar thing. We have 9 to 11, which is like 2 hours. 2 hours mean divided by 30, so 120 divided by 30, which is the 4 records. And so because starting from 0, we have the 5 records, and 0 to 4, and then the value 1 blank 1. So there's a 6 rows. So this is so far working as expected. So what we're going to do here is, now first of all, we added the minute. What we can do here is, we know there will be a blank in certain cases, so we can filter our internal table and say add columns and filter it where the value is blank. Actually, we're going to keep where the value is not blank. So if there is any blank record, just filter that out. So now we have this table with the full or fractional, depending on minutes, or fraction minutes. So it will work in both the cases. So let's quickly double check what this filter did, and if it made a difference. For fractional minutes, it would not make for non-fractional minutes with the full interval of 30 minutes. So we don't have, previously we had a blank row, now we don't. So this is what we're looking for. And when there is a fractional minutes, or there is a partial minutes, not a full of 30 minutes, so we have the record the way we want it. So far so good. So this is working as expected. What we can do here is, now we can add another column, because this is our internal table. We can add another column to this table. Let's call it date and date time. So what that is, our start date, which we already have stored in a variable, plus number of minutes. So we cannot directly add that, because then we can convert our minutes to a time format. So minute time has 3 parameters: hours, minute, and second. So we will say 0, because we have 30 minutes interval, and minutes, and then 0. And so when I'm referring this minute here, is the one which we added in our table. So now we have a date and time column here. So the output would have now another column. So this particular bracket, now we have a date, and this range has been expanded into number of rows with a 30 minutes interval: 6, 6:30, 7, 7:30, so forth, so on, and the last one is 10:20. So this is great. So we basically we expanded our date and time range to the number of rows. And why we are doing this is because we want a rolling 24 hours, right? Otherwise that is not possible. So let's continue building on this thing. I think this is the final output what I wanted to show, which we will use in our measure. We need to take the same approach and put it into our measure to calculate the rolling 24 hours. I already did my measure. I will walk through the measure. Basically, this is the core of the measure, and then it's pretty much is going back to 24 hours. So if you look at the measure, it's pretty much the same thing what we're doing here is, but let me walk through the measure here. So for the row, what I'm getting is, first I'm getting the end date and time, and then I'm going back 24 hours. Now from current date and time, I'm subtracting -1. -1 means a 1 day, so 24 hours is 1 day, so it's going back 24 hours. If you want to rolling 12 hours, then instead you will say minus time 0, 12, 0, because you want to, if you want to go back 12 hours, so that's what you will do. But in this case we're doing rolling 24 hours, so that's what we're doing is -1. So now what we have is, in this case, is the start date and time and the end date and time. So once we got that, what I'm doing is I'm creating a table. Now what this particular formula here we are doing is, if we go back to our visualization quickly to understand. So basically what I'm doing is, if I'm a user X selected, I just want from my end date and time, I just want to go back. I don't want all the rows for the user one. I'm only interested into, based on the end date time, find out the previous records which fall within the 24 hours range. So let's see, if I go to the user one, and user one has so many rows in here. So on each row, whenever I'm at, I'm first calculating the starting points by subtracting -1, and then I'm going to look into how many rows are fit into that 24-hour range. And once we have that table, then we can easily convert that table into the rows and to find out our rolling 24 hours. So that's what we are doing in here. So what I'm doing is, from my table, which is my hourly table, removing any filter coming on that table, filtering it on the for that specific user what I'm looking at, and then I'm finding out what are the records which fall within my start and end date range. So that's what this particular table last 24 hours variable is doing. And now we are at the same place what we saw in our previous example when we created a table with the DAX. So from here, like, I'm creating another variable called expanded table. So basically I'm taking my table last 24 hour as an input and applying the same formula what we just saw in our another in few minutes by creating that sample table. So again, exactly the same thing, note value is equal to blank, and I'm creating, let's call it date and time. Let's leave this, and then I'm adding the minutes to this. Now once we have the table, now we have created the table, now it is pretty straightforward from here. What we are doing here is we are going to, since we have created the table, we are going back 24 hours. So from the end date, I'm trying to find out, okay, once this table is expanded into rows, and I'm looking into what is in the fall number of records fall within the 24 hours, and I'm summing those minutes up. And why I'm doing the minute is equal to 0, basically the first record, if you go back into the sample one just quickly, because we want, if it is like if I'm rolling back 24 hours, I don't want it, because this is the starting time. I don't want to include this as a 30 minutes. 30 minutes only get included when I'm at this record. So that's a 30 minutes past, right? At this record, I'm just starting the work. haven't any minutes been used yet, and after every 30 minutes then we will get a time get added to the number of hours we worked in 24 hours. So that's why in the DAX measure what I'm doing here is, so first of all, my expanded table, I'm filtering it from and end in the last 24 hours. If you see the current row to time and from time, we already stored in a variable. So I'm saying, okay, in the last 24 hours, whatever the rows are in our expanded table, and if minute or is equal to 0, then just add the 0, otherwise add 30 minutes, right? So now we have the 30 minutes get added, the number of rows get, and then we are dividing it by 60. Why we're dividing by 60? Because we want to see the total number of hours worked. If you want to see total number of minutes worked, then we are fine. We don't need to divide by 60. Finally, I have the total hours in last 20 output. A measure will return me as a value based on that 24 hours. So let's put this measure in our visualization and see how does it look like. So here I have the total hours just for the sake of so that we can understand the calculation easily. So if we look at each row here, so on 2nd of April, so from 1st April 2021 to 2nd April 2021, which is 1 a.m. to 1 a.m., it says 17 and a half hours being used. So how it is? So it means it counted all the hours from 1st April 2021 to from 1 a.m. Till 1 a.m. of the 2nd of April. So if you go, this range falls within that date range. So that is 9 plus 3, 12. And this also falls within that range because the starting is the 1st April of 1 a.m. So that is 2:30. So this falls in that. So the 4 hours from this. So 9 plus 3, 12 plus 16. And now this starts at the 1 a.m. as well. So that is what is coming out to be included in the 24 hours. So this record does not match. So the total 17 and a half hours is coming 9 plus 3, 12 plus 4, 16 plus 16, 1.5 hour, 17 and a half hours. So if we are at this row, so now our range is 1st April, the last range is 1st April 2021, and now the starting range is 31st of March 2021, 9 p.m. So anything between 31st March 2021, 9 p.m. to 1st March, 1st April 2021, 9 p.m. That's what we want to count. So of course this matches to that, and then it is going. So if we look into that, here it starts at 4 hours from this, and so that's 9 plus 4, 13. And here it started 1 a.m. to 2:30, so this get included as well. So we have 9 plus 4, 13 plus 13 plus 1.5, 14 and a half, and this get included because this is starting from 1st of April and we going back to 31st of March. So all these get counted. If you go to user X, again we have a different data. In this particular case, we have our range is now 30th December 2021, 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. So there is from this record 6 to 10 a.m. it included only 1 hour in this particular row. That's why 2 coming from this particular row and the 1 hour coming from this particular row. So that's 3 hours. This particular DAX is pretty complex in terms of, but as I showed, what we did is we expanded our start and end range date to the rows, and then we made it the interval of 30 minutes, and then we sum it up and going back to 24 hours. On the surface it looks very complex, but if you break it down the way I try to explain by creating the sample table using various DAX function, it worked. End of the day we get the result. In my opinion, this is not the ideal way of doing this. I mean, the better way is to expand and enhance your model, pre-create those number of rows for 30 minutes interval, and then it will become very easy. But in this video I want to show that in case you cannot enhance your model or can add rows to it, then you can achieve the result using DAX. But again, the purpose of this video was to show certain DAX functions, how they can work, how you can achieve the complex business goals using DAX. The part 2 of this video, I'm going to take the simple route of using enhancing the model and then writing the same DAX code, and it will be much simpler to work with if we have a better model. Stay tuned, do subscribe my channel. Until next video, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.